Let's talk about something every homeowner dreads: water damage. A burst pipe, a busted water heater, a massive storm. It really doesn't matter how it starts, the result is always chaos. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what happens when water gets into your home, from that first moment of panic to the actual science of getting it all fixed.
Okay, just picture this for a second. You hear a weird noise. You go to check it out, and splash. Your feet are suddenly soaked, the carpet is squishing, the water is spreading, and your heart is in your throat. It's pure panic, right? But what's really happening to the structure of your home in those first few minutes? Well, the damage starts instantly.
So the first things you're probably going to see are the most obvious signs: materials like drywall and wood. They're basically giant sponges. They just wick that water right up, causing your baseboards and the trim around your doors to swell up and warp almost immediately. It's a huge flashing red light that your home structure is absorbing a ton of moisture.
And oh man, if you have hardwood floors, this is just gut-wrenching to see. The wood planks soak up all that water and they expand, but they have nowhere to go, so they start pushing against each other, causing them to curl up at the edges, that's called cupping, or even buckle right up in the middle. It is a crazy demonstration of just how destructive water can be.
But then there are the things you can't see, but you can definitely smell. You know that musty odor, right? Well, that's your first warning sign of microbial growth. And here's the kicker. In a humid environment, mold can start to take hold in just 24 to 48 hours. So that smell, that's often a much bigger threat than the puddle on the floor.
To really get a grip on all the forces at play here, let's zoom in on a place where water damage is a constant, ongoing battle: Spring Hill, Florida. This area is pretty much the perfect case study for a perfect storm of environmental and structural risks.
So what you have here is a whole bunch of factors all hitting at once. There's a high water table, so moisture is always pushing up from the ground. The soil is sandy, which holds water. On top of that, you have a ton of aging plumbing from a building boom in the 80s that's now starting to fail. You add over 50 inches of rain every year and constant sticky humidity, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster.
And that really nails it. It's not just one thing, it's this specific, nasty combination that makes these homes uniquely vulnerable. It's like they're under constant pressure from the environment outside and from the plumbing inside their own walls. So the second that water hits, you are officially in a race against the clock. And those first 48 hours, they are absolutely critical. They literally determine whether you're looking at a minor repair job or a massive, mold-infested reconstruction project.
This is the window. In a humid place like Florida, that is how long you have before mold spores find a nice damp surface and decide to move in. After that point, your problem isn't just about water anymore. Now it's a potential health hazard. So what does a professional response look like in that window? Well, it's fast. You call, and a real person answers the phone, day or night. A team is at your house within an hour, and they are not showing up with a couple of shop vacs from the hardware store. We're talking industrial extractors to get the standing water out fast. And then, bam, they immediately set up an army of high-powered drying equipment.
And this is where we get into the science of what happens next. See, getting rid of the visible water, that's just step one. The real challenge is fighting an invisible enemy: trapped moisture. And this is where a professional job is worlds apart from any DIY attempt.
You might think that once the puddles are gone, you're in the clear, but that's not how it works. Water is sneaky. It climbs up inside your drywall, it soaks the insulation behind your walls, it gets trapped under your flooring, and all of that hidden moisture, that's what leads to rot, serious structural damage, and of course, mold. So how in the world do you fight an enemy you can't even see? With some seriously cool technology. Thermal imaging cameras let you literally see the temperature differences caused by moisture inside the walls. These giant truck-mounted extractors pull water with incredible force, way more than a portable unit. And penetrating moisture meters don't just check the surface. They have probes that go deep inside the structure to measure the water content.
It all comes down to a really fancy-sounding word: psychrometrics. But the idea behind it is actually pretty straightforward. Professionals don't just point a bunch of fans and hope for the best. They actually manipulate the air itself. They control the temperature, the humidity, and the air flow to create the perfect conditions to force water to evaporate out of the materials where it can be captured by their dehumidifiers. It's totally calculated and precise.
Now this is crucial. Not all water is the same. Where the flood came from dictates the entire plan of attack. Category 1, that's clean water from a supply line. No big deal.
But Category 2, gray water, say from a dishwasher overflow, that has contaminants in it. And Category 3, black water, well, that's sewage or floodwater. It's seriously hazardous and requires completely different safety gear and cleanup protocols.
And none of this is just guesswork. The entire industry follows a strict set of standards, the IICRC-certified. You can think of it like the official rulebook for water damage. It lays out the scientific best practices for everything, from classifying the water to verifying that the structure is actually dry. It ensures the job is done safely and correctly, every time.
Okay, so the emergency is over, the science is at work, but what does the full road to recovery look like? This is not a one-day job. It's a methodical process of constant monitoring and verification.
Yeah, a typical project isn't done in a day. After that initial emergency response, technicians come back daily. They are taking moisture readings, checking their calculations, and adjusting the equipment as needed. The whole goal is to reach what's called a dry standard, which just means the walls and floors are back to their normal pre-flood moisture levels. And that can easily take a week, sometimes even longer.
And during this whole process, documentation is absolutely everything, especially when it comes to your insurance claim. Adjusters don't pay out claims based on stories, they pay based on data. They need to see the thermal images, the daily logs with all the moisture readings, and photos of the equipment doing its job. This part is completely non-negotiable for getting your claim approved.
And this quote really captures the whole philosophy. The job isn't done when things feel dry to the touch. It's only done when the scientific instruments confirm it. That verification is what prevents you from getting that horrible surprise a few months later when you suddenly see mold creeping up your walls.
Okay, wow, we have covered a lot of ground, from the moment the water hits to that final scientific moisture reading. So what are the most important things to take away from all this? Let's just boil it down. First, you got to know the difference between two key terms you'll hear. Water mitigation is that emergency response, stopping the damage, extracting the water, setting up the drying gear. Its only goal is to prevent things from getting any worse. Water restoration is the whole process that comes after, including all the repairs and rebuilding needed to get your home back to the way it was. And that really brings us to our final thought. Every one of us, we have smoke detectors, we might have a fire extinguisher, we have a plan for a fire. But here's the thing, water damage is far, far more common. So the real question is, do you have a plan for water? Because knowing who to call and what to expect can make all the difference in the world when that clock starts ticking.